At the end of every business day, commuters cram themselves into subway cars until they are pressed together like the proverbial sardines. Naturally, many, probably most passengers would rather wait for a less crowded train, but during rush hour there will always be a sufficient number of claustrophilic riders to ensure each car is filled to physical capacity. The situation is so bad that many frail riders, such as the elderly or those with certain medical conditions, can't use the busiest lines at all for perhaps several hours a day. Who or what is to blame for this disturbing feature of mass transit? Is it the deplorable lack of compassion for one's fellow man? Is it a reflection of our society's treatment of workers as mere cattle in our dehumanizing industrial system? Perhaps racism is the culprit in the overcrowding, as the affected riders are disproportionately black. The problem with these suggested explanations is that they don't account for the different outcomes between government and private services. The same inconsiderate people who cram into a subway car don't behave that way when flying, and movie theaters stop selling tickets to a given show once all the seats are filled. The reason is so obvious one feels silly even stating it. Private businesses want their customers to have an enjoyable experience, and therefore don't try to pack their customers together nostril to nostril. Such considerations, unfortunately, are beyond the bureaucrats who manage America's public subway systems. After all, how does it benefit the mayor of New York or any of his subordinates to fix this problem? It would probably cost millions of dollars to hire extra employees and/or revamp the platforms to enforce the new boarding limits. The extra cash would either have to come from fare hikes or general revenue. In either case, there would be huge political opposition. And for what? Is the next mayoral election really going to turn on the issue of crowded subways at rush hour? In a neglected 1944 masterpiece, Bureaucracy, the great economist Ludwig von Mises explained the fundamental difference between private and government enterprises. Because private businesses are ultimately concerned with turning a profit, even large corporations can avoid the waste that so typifies government undertakings. This is because the corporation can divide its operations into smaller units and give the manager of each relatively free rein to try various approaches. This approach works because there is always an objective criterion by which to evaluate the performance. Did it turn a profit, or did it lose the corporation money? In contrast, Mises argued, a government enterprise must be managed in an entirely different way. Because its funds are obtained from the legislature and ultimately from the involuntary tax payments of the citizens, it won't do to allow public sector managers to try various techniques as long as they're profitable. Such a reckless policy would allow a school system to save millions of dollars by teaching only 3 months per year, or the local fire department to raise funds by selling all its fire engines. In the private sector, there is no need to worry about such abuses, because there each firm must raise its funds from willing customers. A diner that didn't provide any forks would quickly go out of business. Yet in the government sector, where enterprises receive taxpayer money and/or monopolistic privileges, different rules apply. In the government sector, the customer isn't always right. The bureaucrats are. And bureaucrats have goals other than customer service, because the customer can't take his business elsewhere, and cost-effectiveness, because the less cost-effective they are, the more money they can claim they need.
So it's one of our best investments, but it's expensive.